Welcome, one and all, to the Ferret Raccoon podcast, episode 167. I'm the Indigenous Owl.
And I'm the Angry Raccoon, bringing you the last podcast of May 2021. And boy, in terms of weather, and I know in England, English people usually complain a lot about the weather.
Yes.
But damn, it has been really wild over the last week and couple of days.
Exactly, yes.
Like, it has been raining, it has been sunny, it's been raining and sunny at the same time.
Yeah, that weather's really weird, but...
Yeah, England's currently in, like, this weird situation where I think it's already been kind of, like, reported or estimated that for the next couple of weeks it's just going to be rain, which is very odd for, May.
Yeah, exactly, we're in spring now, and we're just getting rain.
Yeah, it's very odd. I mean, part of me does and doesn't want a summer because I can't stand the sun, and I personally think it makes a lot of people go a bit loopy. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind it, honestly. I do like the rain, and it keeps people inside, which is another benefit.
It's true.
But yeah, besides the rain, Al, how have you been over the last couple of weeks? Or well, since the last podcast, I should say more accurately.
Yeah, I've been okay. In terms of like what I've been watching, so I started watching Demon Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
This is an anime that I initially thought I was actually not going to be too interested in, just because like the title alone is just quite bland. Like when Goblin Slayer came out, I just thought, okay, cool, and because I heard that like the anime is really good, and then I saw that like Demon Slayer came out, I was like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. But then actually when I started watching it on Netflix, I was like, oh, actually this anime is really, really good. I'm really enjoying it. Just to like talk to the audience about it, I just want to kind of set the premise of the story quickly. So it's set around the Taisho era in Japan, and it's based on the main character called Tanjiro, who's a young boy who lives in the mountains with his family. And basically he walks down into the town to collect supplies, and often helps out the locals as well, as they know he has like a high sense of smell. And on his way home, he's suddenly stopped by another local who is warning him to stay at like his place because like there's danger that lurks around in the forests. So he stays just for safety measures. And then in the following morning, like he literally returns home and he finds like his whole family just killed. And apart from his sister Nezuko, who he tries to bring to safety, and she awakens as a demon. And as Tanjiro is trying to fight his sister off, a mysterious man named Gyu comes onto the scene, who is a demon slayer. So that's just this kind of basic premise, and Tanjiro just wants to save his sister and become a demon slayer to avenge his family. That is the premise of Demon Slayer. And yeah, Demon Slayer is just a dark fantasy-based anime and slightly gory. I would recommend this anime for like anyone that's into those kind of genres, as I just mentioned. But other than that, my opinion, yeah, I'm really I'm really enjoying it. I haven't finished it quite yet. I'm on like episode 17, and I'm getting ready because I'm planning to see the film. So I'm getting ready to see the film.
Mugen Train, I believe it's called.
Yes.
Yeah, that comes out real soon, actually.
Yeah.
So you best hurry up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually really happy you've actually started watching Demon Slayer. It's an anime I've recommended a couple of people watch because I think it's pretty accessible and I think it's surprisingly well done for a shonen-like series.
Yeah, it is actually.
Which some of these shonen series they kind of do miss the mark of kind of being or becoming iconic or really kind of capturing that excitement and that hype. And typically when the next shonen that's pretty popular comes around, you typically think it's just generic or bland or just it's just part of the hype. But this one really is actually pretty good in terms of a lot of the things that happen in it and the way things happen. Like, just to quickly say, a lot of the arcs and the stories I think have been actually really good.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear you've been enjoying that series. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, my last 2 weeks has been kind of interesting over the last few days. One thing I managed to finish, which I'd been watching for over 10 weeks because I was watching each episode as it aired, was series 11 of Taskmaster.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know what Taskmaster is, it is essentially a games show competition comedy series which essentially takes 6 comedians or funny people, and it essentially has actor comedian Greg Davis and his assistant Alex Horn essentially set them tasks that they have to do. These tasks can be both difficult, strange, just really out there, random tasks for essentially the Taskmaster's amusement, and whoever performs the best under the judgment of the Taskmaster gets said points. The basic premise that is honestly really unique and really perfect for TV because it does get a lot of laughs out of you just from the scenarios and the situation. And this series in particular was really, really strong. The first episode was a bit weird because, obviously, because of COVID-19 restrictions, there can't be an audience there, and all the cast is very separated. For whatever reason, that first episode, no one was really laughing because they're watching it in like the cinema. And I don't know if that was because the audience was like, "Shh, it's the cinema. We can't be talking too much." But it was very odd to have like, you know, these pretty funny and amazing things happen and just people be like, "No, we can't say anything."
Yeah.
But I would really recommend this series. You can start at any series. I mean, you could just look up the people who are on it and you will just be like, "Oh, I really like him, so I'll watch that." But highly recommend it. Probably one of my favorite series so far. They've already confirmed series 12, which I'd imagine is going to be airing later this year. So I guess expect me to talk about Taskmaster a couple more times. Because yeah, I think they're going to be doing planned specials as well. So it's definitely going to be their year. And the other thing I played over the last 2 weeks was Resident Evil 8 Village. The game that everyone is playing and talking about. One of the best games released this year, I can say for certain. And yeah, I absolutely love this game. I thought it was fantastic. I think Capcom absolutely nailed this game in so many ways because this is Resident Evil's 25th anniversary, being 2021. And this game also does kind of feel like a celebration game because it kind of takes an element from almost every main game in the series. Yes, even Resident Evil 5 and 6, the games people really don't like. I won't say where and how because that would be a spoiler. But, you know, just for example, you've got your puzzles, you've got your backtracking, you've got your very odd settings from 1 and 2, you've got enemies following you around from Resident Evil 3, you've got your merchant, you've got your attaché case, you've got your village European setting from Resident Evil 4, and a ton of other original and interesting mechanics to go with it. It's a game that is very strong. There are a few things and negatives that I have against it, like for example the fact that it has an element of every single game is one of its strongest points and also one of its weakest points.
Right.
Because those points that are a little bit more, let's say, actiony, a little bit more Resident Evil 5 to 6, by far the weakest points of the game. But at the same time, when they do incorporate something different, it's not for long.
Oh, good.
So it never feels jarring, and they always do it pretty well. And yeah, even kind of expanding on that, it doesn't feel gimmicky neither. It never feels like, oh, in this section you only have to do stealth, where in this section you have to use the rocket launcher and you have to kill everyone. No, it always kind of feels pretty, you know, through the line. But there's always a different element, either the environment or what you're doing or how you have to do it. There's a lot of things that will come up in this game that are very different, but they always nail it, in my opinion. And I just got to give them props for that because they took a massive risk, and this game could have been a huge mess when you think about it.
Yeah.
Especially when you see all the concepts and ideas they put into this game. But I really loved it. I love the whole idea of backtracking through the village. I love the fact that you can hunt animals.
Yeah.
And I just kind of love the way it's kind of structured. In a sense, I'm very interested to see if there's going to be DLC and what's going to happen in the next game. But yeah, Capcom is 100% back in that sense. But yeah, let's move on to actual news stories. I don't have a lot to talk about because we are going to be doing our second part of our AniMay discussion, which we've been looking forward to, and hopefully you guys have been looking forward to it. But first, we're going to talk about some other things, and one thing that is very relevant to this podcast, and of course very sad as well to hear, is the fact that Kentaro Miura, the creator of the manga series Berserk, unfortunately passed away aged 54 on May the 6th. It was only reported a couple of days ago of his passing, which, hearing this, has made an already upsetting week for me even worse. It's so sad that he's passed away. I mean, Kentaro, in my opinion, was up there as one of the best. With other illustrator writers, such as this is where I'm gonna start like butchering names, unfortunately. Urasawa, 20th Century Boys. Obviously, you've got the illustrator of Vagabond. You've got Inio Ashino, Goodnight Punpun, and as well as other series. Obviously, the writer illustrator of Akira. People like Junji Ito, who's done some fantastic illustrations with horror and other kinds of things, as well as so many other artists that I'm not going to list because my whole notebook would be filled with so much greatness. But I mean, you only really have to look at the Berserker armor that Guts wears to see just how skilled Kentaro was. I mean, and that's not even going into the monster designs and some of this gothic, disgusting, horrific stuff that he would do, as well as the more subtle images that he would draw. Just like one of my favorite shots is just Guts just sitting there in the Berserker armor.
Yeah.
Stuff like that I think is absolutely fantastic. He will certainly be missed. And even people's reactions to his passing has definitely shown how much of a cultural impact he has had, not necessarily just on manga or Japanese culture, but just around the world, because Berserk is well known, I think.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to say as well, Al?
Yeah, just to kind of echo what you were saying, it's just, I was really saddened to hear this news, as, like, I'm a big Berserk fan myself, and I just wanted to say that, like, Kentaro Miura was a very extremely talented author and an artist, and his legacy will always live on. To conclude this, I would definitely want people to check out Berserk as well, as it's fantastic. The storytelling and the art style is definitely in a league of its own. So yeah, I just wanted to conclude there with that. But yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, I think especially with these podcasts, and especially given what's happened with him, I think if you enjoy art, if you enjoy storytelling, if you enjoy illustration, if you enjoy media, I think you owe it to yourself to at least check this series out.
Yeah, and actually we spoke about Berserk in the previous podcast, so...
Yeah, we did as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting how it's kind of come full circle in an unfortunate way. But yeah, let's move on. Let's try and keep it a little bit more hype. He will always be remembered. Let's remember that. We're going to do our first trailer, which is going to be for the Sparks Brothers. This is going to be directed by Edgar Wright, and is essentially following the band Sparks, as I'm guessing it's going to be more of a Talking Heads documentary film, essentially going over the very long, almost spanning 50 years, legacy of the band Sparks, who I'd imagine most people have no idea who the hell they are. And I think that's kind of the point of this film. And I mean, the first thing I want to say about this trailer is that it's edited with like such style and such precision that even if you have no idea who these people are, you got to admit you're at least a little bit intrigued in terms of like who these people are and what they're about. I mean, it's an interesting change of pace for Edgar Wright to be doing this kind of, well, basically just doing a documentary as a whole. But like, if you know Edgar Wright and you know the band Sparks, their creative approach to art kind of goes hand in hand for the most part. There isn't too much to say because a lot of it is just interviews and just footage, from their music video and other times they've appeared on TV and that. But I really do love that there is animated sections that are retelling events from the past. It's a really creative way to keep like the film fresh, and I just honestly love it when documentaries do this kind of stuff. Kind of even more collaboration in a sense. And it's interesting the cast of people they have to kind of talk about the band for the most part. I'm really interested to hear what people like Jonathan Ross, Beck, Mike Myers, Patton Oswalt, and Weird Al Yankovic have to say about the band, because with people like Mike Myers, I have no idea, why he's even in this. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but, with people like Weird Al Yankovic, obviously when you've heard his music, he, Sparks has had a big influence on him. So yeah, that's all I pretty much have to say about this trailer, because there isn't too much to talk about it. But I wanted to mention this film because I think it's a film worth knowing about. I think it's going to be a good film. Owl, I know you're a massive fan of Sparks.
I have no idea who they are, but yeah, no, I did actually watch the trailer. I actually thought, like on my first glimpse, I actually thought they were a British band. I kind of got that vibe off them, but actually when they said, oh, they're an American band, I was like, oh wow. So yeah, what I thought. But yeah, I think they're really creative. Like from some of the visuals I was seeing, I was like, yeah, they're very. But like, I don't know if this eccentric is the right word to describe them, but yeah, they really go out there for sure with their creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but yeah, this is more of a mention, but hopefully this film does well and more people know about the band and know about yeah, the film, because I mean I haven't listened to all 25 of their albums, but from what I've heard, yeah, they're pretty out there and pretty great band, to be honest. But yeah, let's move on to the next trailer, which I believe you have, Al.
Yep. So the next trailer I'll be talking about is Venom: Let There Be Carnage. This film is directed by Andy Serkis. Yeah, I think I got that name right, Serkis. Who is also an actor too. He worked on the 2018's Mowgli: Legend of the Jungle. He not only directed it, but he also voiced Baloo. So what I've grasped from watching this trailer, it showcases a very fed up looking Eddie Brock, and he's learning to live with Venom in his everyday life. And then it kind of goes into the shot of like Ravencroft's asylum where Cletus Cassidy is being held at, and he does like a monologue talking about how he misses Eddie and how they're alike in some way, using the quote of waiting in the darkness and the rescuer never comes. So I feel like that is kind of like a metaphor to say that maybe that's somewhat in a way of causing his madness. But I know that obviously doing some research that actually Cletus Cassidy is actually, well, he's a serial killer, so he's already mad anyway.
Yeah.
But maybe that is just a way of kind of making it seem like there's some sort of, like he's like a sympathetic character and you can have some form of sympathy for him. But yeah, that's what I kind of got with that. While he gets the lethal injection in the trailer, something goes wrong where Carnage, another symbiote, is basically taking over his body, and then the glass box he's been held in shatters around him. And I kind of get the prediction with this film is that like, well, basically I feel like Venom being the anti-hero now is probably going to have to stop Carnage. Although I didn't mind the first film, I do feel that the film is trying way too, like from the trailer I feel like it's going to try way too hard to be funny for some reason. I kind of get that vibe already. Like with the like in the beginning of the trailer, I don't know if it was just me, but like I thought that Venom was kind of trying to imitate Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was singing. I don't know if I just got that vibe. I understand that like Venom is meant to be like, you know, witty and stuff like that, but I really hope it doesn't become like unbearable humor. I just feel like it just, yeah, otherwise it's just gonna get jarring after a while. But there were a few details I did notice doing some like just rewatching the trailer. There was like a woman being locked in she was in a box. And there was also a shot where she's just lying there and like it's a close up of her eye and she's got like a scar on it. And I noticed like after doing some research, she is actually the love interest, well, going back to the comic, she's the actual love interest of Cassidy. Her name is Frances Beerson, aka Shriek in the comics. Doing a bit more research as well, like Eddie and Cletus do have history as well in the 1991's Amazing Spider-Man comic in volume 3. He was there. Well, Cletus was introduced in volume 344. Sorry, yes. So yeah, just a little bit of back info there. But yeah, that's all I got to say on that one.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I appreciate the fact you did the research because I'd imagine a lot of people don't know who the hell Carnage is.
Yes.
Carnage has always been an interesting character to me because I remember when I first saw him, I don't know how or why I thought this, but I honestly thought Carnage was Venom Inside Out.
Oh!
I don't know why, but for the longest time I was like, oh yeah, Carnage, it's just Venom Inside Out. Don't know why I thought that. But Carnage is a very interesting character because unlike Venom, who can go either both ways, being like the hero or the villain, Carnage is just straight out evil. Like he will kill people without question. That he's very malicious. He's very disgusting in a lot of ways. He's nowhere near as strong as Venom, so I'll be very interested to see how that fight's gonna go down because Venom will just kill him. Like, I mean, have you seen the size of Venom?
He's butch.
Venom is yoked. That's what he is. Yeah, because that's what happens. But it is an interesting trailer. The concept of Eddie and Venom protecting the convenience store or Mrs. Chow's convenience store, I think, is honestly quite fantastic.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's a cool idea.
I know it's not going to be the main focus of the film, but it adds so much to the film already. Like, it kind of adds this element that, like, you know, Eddie's more used to things, people are more aware of Venom, you know, it's very nonchalant. You know, I
Yeah,
like the fact that he just strolls in, he's like, "Hi, Eddie," she's like, "Hi, Eddie, hi, Venom," Venom's like, "Hey,"
yeah,
that kind of silliness, and why, despite, Eddie being like, an investigator, but he has like this, side job that he works at night, possibly, make a little extra cash or possibly to keep Venom at bay, I don't know. That's an interesting concept. It kind of reminded me of the blind lady in Deadpool.
oh yes, yeah.
So maybe they're taking a little bit of inspiration from there. But I mean, it is an interesting trailer. I didn't really care too much for the first Venom film. I think Tom Hardy's performance was fantastic. Honestly, I think he
Yes,
absolutely
honestly, yeah.
owns this role. Um, and I think the second one, the first film did get a bit generic, and that's, I think, partly due to the CGI.
Mm,
There is something about the CGI that doesn't look great in both these films. Like, it's very
yeah,
unbelievable, and I understand there was probably going to be no way that we were going to have like um, that proper hulking, just normal suit of Venom. We were never going to
yeah,
get that. I completely get that because no one has that body type. And even if they did, they probably wouldn't. They're probably not an actor. But yeah, whenever it's like CGI Carnage, I honestly just lose interest. Like, I'm just like, oh no, it's gonna be a CGI fight at the end. That's the part I'm not looking forward to. I'm more looking forward to the more human interactions between Cletus and Eddie, which I have a feeling
yes,
we're not gonna get too much. But even still, the guy who's playing Cletus slash Carnage, Woody Harrelson, doing a fucking fantastic job already, I think.
yeah. I agree with you there.
Like, you can really hear like this creepy craziness in his voice. Like, the
Yeah,
cadence is spot on.
yeah.
Really is spot on. But I don't know. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with this film. It's very interesting that you pointed out that the other character in the trailer.
Oh, Shriek.
Yeah, Shriek.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I was wondering is if she was going to be like that other pretty cool character that has part of the symbiote. She has a really cool costume. I can't remember her name, but it's like a black, like Venom, almost Spider-Man like costume, and she has almost like hair with it. She has a bit of a goth look.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I doubt we're gonna see her, but that would honestly be a good spin-off. If Sony wants to go down the whole route of we got to make everything about women, which is very forced and very awful a lot of the times when you don't do it right. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I'm really interested in this trailer. But let's move on to the next one, which is kind of staying dark, and I believe you have this one as well, Al.
Resident Evil Infinite Darkness.
Yep.
So this is a adaptation. Gosh, I can't even get my words out. Adaptation of the Resident Evil video games. This series will be on Netflix. It features Leon and Claire, the duo from Resident Evil 2 that everyone loves.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, watching the trailer, I couldn't really. There's nothing really to grasp from it other than it being like. Sorry, this is just kind of just a quick opinion, but like I felt like it was just Resident Evil characters being an American like zombie movie. That's what it just kind of felt like to me. But I had to try and dig up some info about it, and apparently this series is set between the events of Resident Evil 4 and 5. So it takes place in so basically the year 2006, and it's like a hacking incident at the White House, and Leon is a detective trying to basically see what the situation is, but he encounters zombies on the way, and yeah, but there's not really much else to say about it, really. It does look interesting. I definitely will give it a watch when it does come out. But yeah, that's all I really have to actually say about this. But yeah,
Compared
do
to
you have anything else to say on this raccoon?
yeah, like compared to some of the other CGI Resident Evil movies, this one seems a little bit more subtle. Because some of them got really silly, like really silly. Like I don't know which one it is, but you can probably look it up. But one of them has a scene where, excuse me, Leon is riding a motorcycle while he's being chased by dogs and he's shooting them. I don't think there's going to be a scene like that in Infinite Darkness. Hopefully, maybe they might have learned their lesson. But I think some of the monster designs are pretty nice, and I think in terms of the lighting and the effects, I think they did a pretty good job. I could tell the dubbing so far is not very great. They might not have finished that yet because it
Mm.
did the voices didn't really seem to match the mouth movements, but hopefully this could be one of the better ones. I would rather them do CGI movies than the awful W.S. Anderson um, films that were just awful. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting one worth mentioning, and of course we are on that Resident Evil hype train, so why not talk about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the trailers we have to talk about, and now it is time for our discussion, which we are going to be talking about anime for AniMay 2021, and we're going to have two other discussions to do for the most part. So last podcast we talked about animes we recommend watching if you want to get into anime. This time around, we are recommending animes we don't recommend starting with or watching at all. So we're going a little bit more negative. This might upset some people, but keep in mind it's our opinions, and if you can't handle that, then the internet is not for you. Simply put. Al, can I have your first one, please?
Sorry. So yeah, my first one that I would not recommend to watch is Tokyo Ghoul Re. Not Tokyo Ghoul, just Tokyo Ghoul Re.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not going to go into too much detail about plot. I'm just going to say it is one big mess. It sets off pretty straightforward, but then halfway through the series, the story pacing there is like it skips a lot of parts out. I feel like it's like one episode this happens, and then the next thing you know, it's like a whole bunch of new characters appear. And it's like, who are these people? And you can't have that in an anime. It's not clear enough, especially if there's people out there that don't watch. Read the manga that won't have any understanding of who these characters are. I feel like it's one of those animes that treat the characters kind of like, oh yeah, that character died, but what caused the death? It's like it just treats the characters really badly. So yeah, I don't recommend Tokyo Ghoul Re. Read the manga if anything. Yeah, you can watch I would say the original Tokyo Ghoul series. Watch season 1, but then after season 1, just read the manga after that. But definitely don't watch the anime of Tokyo Ghoul Re. Stay away from it, guys. Stay away. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that one.
Yeah, Tokyo Ghoul is one of those series where I don't think they've ever really been able to fix the pacing or the story properly, in my opinion. Because I remember I watched the original series and it was really all over the place.
Yes.
I remember literally one instance where the main character is just like in a room at a cafe.
Yes.
And then literally the next scene he's working there.
Yeah, that's literally how Tokyo Ghoul Re is the whole time.
And I don't know if that's in the manga, but that is just really weird because I specifically remember there not being any dialogue of them saying, hey, it's probably best you work here.
No.
Which is very bizarre. I don't know if we're just supposed to assume that that's the best thing for him to do, but it's very jarring, very odd. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend anything. Even the movie was not, well, obviously it goes without saying the movie wasn't great, but still. I digress. My first one is probably going to be one I think most people saw coming anyway. It is notorious. It is very hit and miss for a lot of people. I think there's going to be a lot of groans the moment I mention it, and there's going to be a lot of anger the moment I mention it. But it is going to be Sword Art Online.
Oh, okay.
I do not recommend Sword Art Online for as popular as it is. I think the most frustrating thing about Sword Art Online is the fact that it had a lot of potential to be really, really good. Like, because I've watched the first half of the original series, and it's honestly quite enjoyable at points. There's some strong concepts. Kirito as a main character, I think, is awful. He is one of the worst parts about that series because he is nothing. When I think of bland generic characters, he's the first one I think of, and he's a pretty awful character, but he had the potential to be an interesting character.
Yeah.
He had the potential to be as interesting as the main characters in No Game No Life or ReZero.
Yes.
He had the potential 100%. To be as interesting as them, but it was squandered. Absolutely squandered. At the same time as well, the other female character, I can't remember her name, it's basically his girlfriend.
Asuna.
Asuna, yes. She's a really strong character in the beginning. And I actually liked her as a character because she was someone who had fought her way to the top and took no shit from no one to get where she was. And she was one of the only characters that actually wanted to do something. And I like that coming from a female character, because a lot of characters that look like her aren't in that position. And if they are in that position, they don't act like her. They're not necessarily really girls, so to speak. And I thought it got really stupid in the second part when they go to the fairy world,
Yeah.
and she just becomes a damsel in distress and almost gets raped. It's just like disgusting. And other issues I do have with the series is that every main villain is just the same. They're just crazy.
Yeah, it's actually true.
Like, every villain is just like crazy. Even the elf guy, he's like creepy. And there's always one, like, I don't know if it's just fan service, but I don't really like that being put in, because there's always one scene or one character that's just into something really creepy.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me. Like, you can have a character that's like weird and odd and, you know, oh, he likes that kind of thing, as long as you establish that and move on and actually make a character out of it.
Yeah.
The main villain in the second season, when they're in the fairy world, is just downright creepy. You could have made a commentary about anime fans with him and how he's like really creepily lusting over this young girl who's in a cage. And I mean, there's, you know, and the fact that, like I said, I hate to say this word, but the fact that she almost gets assaulted by tentacles is just not great. Like, if you want to make a porno, guys. Like, I'm not going to judge you for that, but don't put it in this series.
True.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but and even still, even with the best series out of Sword Art Online, which is Alternate, the one where it's the shooting one, which follows the character Len, who is by far the best character in all of Sword Art Online. So I'm kind of going to cheat a little bit, and I would say watch the first 5 episodes of Sword Art Online Alternative, the one with Lane, because the main character in that series is actually really good. It has nothing to do with any of the other characters, and she, in real life, she is a 6 foot tall girl. Like, girls in Japan, or at least girls in Japanese anime, are not tall.
No.
She stands above most girls, and she hates that. She has a complex. And there is a really funny scene in the very beginning of it where she tries all the Sword Art games, and each game she always gets picked as a tall character, and she hates it. Except for when she does the gun game, when she's like a small little character, and she loves that, which is great. And that whole series has a great setup and a great concept, because it's basically a battle royale in that series done as an anime, and it's really good. It's legitimately good, and there's a lot of like nice characters and character development. It goes to shit after episode 6 when they set up the main villain, and they basically spend a whole episode saying she's crazy.
Oh.
She's dangerous because she's crazy. And you think, oh man, she must be really dangerous. And when you do see her actually do something, it's not that crazy. It's like, oh, she's just good with guns. Okay. Nice. It's a very frustrating series. It has a lot of potential. I do not recommend starting with it. I mean, if you're into creepy things like tentacle rape and incest, yeah, this is your series. You'll probably like all the implications of that. If you like seeing half-naked underage girls, yeah, definitely watch Sword Art Online 2. You'll love that series. You'll love it if you love that kind of creepy stuff. And actually, no, I'll take that back, because you don't even get anything from that. If you're into those things, you'll be disappointed still. That's how bad the series is. But yeah, Sword Art Online is a series that really annoys me because it had a lot of potential. And that's the thing that really bothers me, is it could have been big. If anything, go watch Dot Hack or Log Horizon, because they're way better at that whole concept. But yeah, Al, your next one.
The funny thing is, I had Sword Art Online as well, and you just explained it perfectly, so we could just skip that. But yeah, I agree everything with what Raccoon said. Yeah, Sword Art Online was on my list as well, so yeah, we can skip that for sure.
Okay.
I'll go on to my last one.
Yeah.
So my one to not recommend, my last one, is Peacemaker, Kurogane. Not a lot of people actually know about this series, but I'm just gonna say don't watch it. It is absolutely crap. I actually have a story with this one. But I'm going to start with the premise first, and then I'll get into the story.
Okay.
So, it's basically the basic premise is about a young boy called Tetsunosuke and his brother Tatsunosuke. They're both left behind to fend for themselves after the murder of their parents. Tatsu joins a special force police called the Shinsengumi as an accountant, and Tetsu joins to become a soldier to avenge his parents. It's a good plot, but the execution was terrible. I just want to compare this to Demon Slayer. This anime is set. I think it's not set in the Taisho era. It's set in the Edo period, I think. And I feel like Demon Slayer came out way later than this anime, and it's executed the story so much because the backstory is very similar. But my story with this anime, actually, I just want to just say a little bit of backstory. Funny thing is, now I was going to. When I actually had the box set for this anime series, unfortunately, because originally I was actually when I was shopping, I saw 2 box sets for Gurren Lagann, and they had a really nice artwork on it, and I was gonna buy it, but at the time I was very young, so I had to ask my mum for money and stuff like that. So I was like, oh yeah, I really want this series. And my mum said no because it was too expensive, because it was like £18 for both of the box sets. So she said she saw this Peacemaker, and it was I think it was like £10 for the whole box set. So she's like, oh, I'm gonna spend my money on that, and you can have that box set instead. So I was like, okay, cool, sure. So when I got it and I watched it, the whole series, I just I was so disappointed, because the majority of the anime is just them talking, and then he trains and stuff, but it's just an anime where they talk and talk and talk, and then the last 2 episodes is where the actual action takes place. It breaks my heart, and I still got the box set as well. It's horrible. Oh, no. It's just horrible. But yeah, that's all I got to say about this one.
I gotta ask, because some of you may have heard me gasp when I heard that. The box sets of Gurren Lagann, were they the ones that were around during late 2000s?
Yes, I think it was when I went to get this. I think it was 2010, 2011, roughly around that time.
Did the 2 box sets have both the main character in the smaller robot and the full shot of the Lagann, red background, blue and red?
I think so. One box set had Nia on it, and the other one had the main character on it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know why I'm saying oh no?
No, I'm sure it was probably rare stuff, but
it's rare. Ahead. That box set's really rare.
It breaks my heart.
This is where my nerdy kind of mentality for all box sets and editions and releases is. That was the first UK release of Gurren Lagann.
Oh no!
That's out of print. And it was also one of the company All the Anime's first releases in this country.
Oh, that's so upsetting to hear that.
Oh, I'm upset to hear that as well. Oh my god. If anything, guys, All the Anime has re-released Gurren Lagann. It's in its complete state. You can get it on Blu-ray, and you can get it in its Ultimate Edition. So, which I have. So, if anything, if you want to get that series, which we all highly recommend Gurren Lagann, obviously, but but oh my gosh, that makes the situation even worse.
Yeah, I had to share that story. I thought, yeah, why not?
Oh but, my gosh. Okay, I'll do my last one. This is one that I've talked about a lot. Me and Ace have talked about this one a lot.
Okay.
And that's going to be Darling in the Franxx.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Al knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
This series is awful. I would not recommend it. I would highly recommend just watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. Because even if you hate Neon Genesis Evangelion, it's a lot less frustrating than Darling in the Franxx. I have no idea how they made a show so ugly and so just awful to just experience. Unlike Sword Art Online, this one had a lot less potential to be great, because there are some interesting concepts which they don't really do too much about it. It is essentially a mech anime. And it is kind of like a twist and a play on the mech animes. One of the main examples being the fact that 2 people need to pilot one of their robots. What's odd about this series, or I guess interesting depending on how you want to look at it, is it's usually a guy, a male or a female who's piloting it. The guy is usually in a more kind of piloty-ish position, while the girl is almost like on her hands and knees in the ship. So at certain angles, it looks like they're doing doggy style, essentially. I don't like the thing with that is that's funny, but they don't do anything with that, because then I question, well, why does she have to sit like or kneel like that? Like, what's the point in that? Like she literally has like handles like just above where her ass is. Like, that's funny to me, and I'd imagine their intention was that that's funny or interesting, but nothing happens with that. Like, you could have honestly made Darling in the Franxx a parody of Gundam and Neon Evangelicis, and made jokes about how, oh, it looks like I'm having sex with her, but they don't. Missed potential, in my opinion, honestly. Like I don't get that. Like, it's something that still baffles me to this day, because I'm like, did they intend it to look like doggy style, or what? Because, like, it's a love story, essentially. Like, the two main characters, one being called Hiro and the other one being called 02, aka Oni, yeah, they're in love. So I guess that. But then it gets even more confusing when later on in the series, because I'm just going to spoil the series. I do not recommend it. It's fucking trash. Later on in the series, they introduce another team of characters where the positions are switched, where it's the guy in that position and the girl up top.
Okay.
And then I'm like, well, why would you do that? Like, what are you trying to say? It's just confusing. Like, it's an awful series because 02, I think she's one of those characters that I think was designed or created to be almost like the ultimate waifu.
Oh, no.
And I specifically use the waifu, not best girl, not strong female character. She is like a demon. You know, I know like some people like monster girls, demon girls. Specifically the ultimate waifu, I would say. It's not great in that sense because there's a lot of really troubling and awful situations of writing. So, for example, the other lead female character, who's called Ichigo, she's the leader of this group. I can't remember their names because it's so forgettable. She's the leader of this group. They have to protect their planet from these, I think they call them Klaxosauruses, which are like demons. They got an interesting Trigger-ish design because it was made by Trigger and A1 Studios. And they use these robots to, you know, essentially fight them off. She's the leader of this group. And there's one situation where Ichigo, he's not very good. He's not a great pilot. Starting to sound a bit like Shinji there. He's not a great pilot, but yet she's like, but because she really likes him, she's like, yeah, he should really be a pilot. To which the rest of the crew is like, no, he's terrible. He's not going to be a pilot. And then she just starts being a sour face about it. 02 comes along, they have a connection, they get in the robot and they can do the job. They're really good at it. Ichigo then starts getting jealous of this relationship that 02 and Ichigo start having. And it gets really bad. Like, worryingly bad, their relationship. Like, very, like, concerning. Almost to the point where Ichigo becomes like a very malicious, compulsive liar, and it's never addressed that she's doing that.
Oh.
Yeah, she says some nasty. She does some stuff that could literally be considered verbal and mental abuse.
Oh.
A lot of characters do that in this series. There's another character. He's a male, and he actually is mistreating his partner, and he's a complete egotistical asshole. And you can have a character like that. The problem is how they resolve that is the main character just tells him to stop doing it, and he stops.
Oh, wow. Is that it?
Yeah. He's not hitting her or anything, but he's just being nasty to her. He's like, oh, hurry up, you need to do better than this. And she's trying. She's not the most confident character. She's a bit shy. He's a very odd character because even there's one scene where he goes with 02, the Oni, and he's like, he's like, yeah, I'm the most powerful person in the world. No one can stop me. And 02 almost kills him because of that, because she steals energy or something like that. You'd think after an experience like that, you would probably toe the line. No, he decides to start abusing his girl.
Oh, Lord.
It's an awful show, especially the way they handle a lot of things. Like, yeah, the whole situation of, like, with Ichigo, because me and Ace, we actually watched this series together, and we started laughing at it because it was that bad. And there's a lot of scenes that are very frustrating, especially with Ichigo. because yeah, she's a very malicious, manipulative, and I would accuse her in this series of promoting verbal and mental abuse. That's what she does. Ichigo gets hurt, and she says a bunch of lies and bullshit, and she wants him, and not in an enjoyable, creepy like, oh, I'm really in love with you, I'll do anything for you, but in a just, yeah, I would legitimately kill someone for you kind of way. It's honestly really awful, and it's really bad. It's a show that I still intend to do a review on, just to explain how awful it is.
Wow. Okay.
It's really bad. I do not recommend it. Please watch another Gundam series or whatever, or mecha series. Watch Outlaw Star. That's fantastic. But yeah, and another thing I want to add as well is, if you don't believe me on how bad this series is about, I think it's 25 episodes long. Yeah? They introduced the main villain episode 21.
Jesus.
Yeah. And
oh god, that's bad.
Yeah, it's roughly 4 episodes before the series ends is when they introduce the main character, the main villain. And if you know your Japanese mythology, you'll know what the main character is. You know what, fuck it, I'm gonna say it anyway. It's 01, it's Blue Oni. Obviously, because 02 is Red Oni. Obviously, if there was a 01, obviously there has to be a 02. Just goes without saying. It's a really awful series. Really awful. The only thing I like about this series is like the way, the whole way they get in the mechs. I think that's quite funny, but I can't tell if that's a joke or not. And also, I do like the idea of what do you call it? 02 having more metal horns as opposed to more natural horns growing out of her head. That's the only concept I like. It's just like that small detail. Absolutely awful series. Please do not watch that series. If anything, watch SSS Gridman. But yeah. Let's move on to our last of the 2 topics, and that is going to be Guilty Pleasures anime. And Al, I believe you have the first one.
Yeah, so my first one is Serial Experiments Lane, actually.
Oh, wow.
The reason why I say it's my guilty pleasure, because, well, first of all, just for people that don't really know, it's a psychological thriller anime. I say it's on my list because it's not an anime for everyone, but as like a lot of people won't really like it just because it's not for them, and people will fall for something more like, I don't know, Attack on Titan because it's more mainstream and blah blah blah. I feel like I was one of those people that I've actually watched this series twice. I watched this when I was 13, and I watched, I think, about 8 episodes in, and I just thought, oh, this anime is really really boring, and I didn't appreciate it. But then when I watched it again in my 20s, I rewatched it and I enjoyed every single moment of it. It's so surreal. It's dark. It's anime way before its time. It's so it's genius. It's just it's an anime that I actually originally disliked, and I actually end up growing to like it. So yeah, I felt like it's definitely one that it's one of my guilty pleasure animes for sure.
Yeah, Serial Experiments Lane is up there as one of my favorite anime series of all time. I think that series is absolutely fantastic, and I think it is so overlooked, so unappreciated, and I think you putting it as a guilty pleasure is absolutely spot on, because it is an amazing series that I think a lot of people won't get, like I think you rightfully said, but I think it's a very interesting series. Me and Ace have actually had plans and have been working on doing like a mass review on that series.
Oh wow, okay.
Because that series was ahead of its time.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Big time. But yeah, I've only got one to talk about my guilty pleasure, because I couldn't really think of any that I would consider guilty pleasures, because I'm very much like, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. Yeah. But the one thing I thought of, which I have watched a few times, and that is going to be Space Patrol Luluco.
Okay, I've never heard of this one.
This is a series by Trigger Studios, and it is essentially a mini series. Like, it's very short. I think it's literally maybe about 30 minutes long or so. I think it's roughly about that time, less than an hour essentially. It is a series, it's episodes, but it's a series of shorts that basically follows Luluco as she essentially has to join the Space Patrol unit, which is essentially a universal police academy, in order to essentially fill the role for her father, who's in a bit of trouble. It's a really silly and fun series that essentially celebrates anime and also makes fun of all of Trigger's series for the most part. Like, literally, they make reference to Kill la Kill, they make references to Gurren Lagann, they make references to Little Witch Academia, as well as some of the other animes that are very unheard of and unknown to like trigger audiences. It's very basically a very globe-trotting series that does have a bit of a story, and it does kind of trail the lines of kind of making fun of themselves and also kind of celebrating themselves at the same time. It's a really fun series that I've watched a few times because it's just so enjoyable. If you liked things like Kill la Kill, you'll probably really like this series. It's got a great sense of energy, a great sense of like personality, and it's just a really fun watch. Like you could get into this and not know anything about Trigger Studios, you'd still enjoy it. It's not the case of, oh my god, look, it's the main character from Kill la Kill. No, it's not like that. I would highly recommend just giving it a watch or giving it a go. I think it might still all be on YouTube. Don't quote me on that. I know at some point they uploaded the whole series on YouTube just during lockdown, but which was an excuse for me to watch again. But yeah, I highly recommend this. It is a guilty pleasure. I know it's reviewed quite well, but I still feel like it's one of those series that gets forgotten about, and I feel like I'm one of the only people who actually liked and enjoys this series to some extent. But yeah, that's my guilty pleasure. It's just an actual pleasure just to rewatch every time. But Al, your last one, I believe?
My last one, yeah. So mine is Special A. Yeah, this anime is actually a shoujo. It's very girly. I know this is a very weird one because I've picked animes that are pretty dark. So it's like, oh, what? Al like shoujo animes as well? Yeah, this is the only shoujo anime I actually really did like. It's basically the storyline behind it is essentially it takes place in a high school with the main character called Hikari and her friend slash rival Kei, and three other students who like have their own hangout in the high school, and it's like a glass house, and basically they have like their hierarchy, so they're like the smartest and most talented students in the whole school, and they're like these kind of like basically prestige students, and they have like their hierarchy. So like Hikari is number 2 and Kei is number 1 because he's always been better than her at everything, and they're childhood friends, and it's always just been like that. So she's always trying to beat him at everything. Like it could be in racing, it could be at I don't know, arithmetic or anything like that, and he's always just better than her. I appreciate this anime just because like it's quite funny, and it's also like I'm not really a big like I haven't really been into like with anime talking about here, like I'm not really into like romantic animes at all, but it's a romantic comedy. This is the one I can actually appreciate, and actually I do find it really funny. I would say anyone that's into shoujo anime, I would say definitely Special A is worth a watch. The opening is very cringy. The first opening is cringy, but the second one is a lot better. But yeah, that's my guilty pleasure for sure.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's going to be all of our guilty pleasure. We might do this again next year. We might think of some other series that we really enjoy. I have some other ideas for anime-based discussions, but yeah, this will be the final podcast of May, being the final podcast of AniMay. I know it was slightly different that we focus a little bit more on something other than just trailers, but hey, we've got to take a break every now and then. I know that coming up soon, in terms of like the future of the podcast, next month is June, which marks the halfway point of the year. And as tradition with this podcast, we always do the best and the worst of the year so far. So that'll be the next thing we'll be doing in the last podcast of June, because that's roughly the halfway mark of the year. So that should be interesting. I don't know, Al, if you want to be on this podcast, or you're going to be on this podcast, but if there's anything you need to watch, I would say, let's say, speed it up. I know there's a few things I'm probably going to have to fast track over the next month, I guess. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Hopefully we'll do more like themed months. I can't think of any too many. I know we're definitely going to have to do something on games at some point, once again. And I think we'll definitely do a Q&A at some point, because I know since about the end of last year, we've gained a little bit more of an audience, which thank you guys for like watching and subscribing and liking the videos. Actually does help the podcast a lot. It does mean a lot. I hate asking for that, but it does. I do really appreciate it. And yeah, I do realize that there may be people who have no idea who Ferret actually is.
Oh yeah, that is actually a good point.
Ferret is a person. He's a good friend of all of ours, but he just hasn't been on the podcast for a while. Even Ace as well. Ace was on the podcast like almost a year ago. So yeah. Some people probably only know about you and Recess.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll if we can get either it's like all of us or as many of us, we'll probably do another Q&A just so you guys can know us a little bit more, which I think those are always fun to do. But yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add to this podcast before I talk about the video of the episode?
Oh, no, that's it.
Alright, well, we got the video of the episode, not necessarily something really anime themed or related, but just a really fantastic music video that definitely has a lot of Asian, Japanese inspiration behind it, and that is going to be Peggy Ghoul with Starry Night. Fantastic song, one of my favorite songs to come out in the last couple of years, to be honest, and fantastic music video that I think is very uplifting and very cinematic and very well done. Absolutely love this song and video. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Definitely go listen to Peggy Ghoul if you like this song, because she doesn't have a lot of like composed music, but she's a fantastic DJ, fantastic producer, so highly recommend her. Al, I want to thank you for being on this podcast.
No problem.
Covering all of anime and all the high times and the low times that come with anime. We'll definitely do this again next year, I think, because it's been really fun to actually talk about something a bit different, and clearly I think you guys enjoyed the anime discussion. You might actually have some anime fans who listen, which is good. And if you're an anime fan, do let us know, because we'll definitely. It doesn't have. We won't make it exclusively just to May. You know, we'll do more trailers on anime if that need be, and you know, we might even do some anime reviews of certain films that'll be hitting the cinemas real soon. But yeah. Other than that, I guess I'll end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Indigenous Owl.
And we will see you on the next podcast.